we're going to take a look at the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula works for any quadratic function as far as solving. We don't need a to be equal to anything. Everything goes. The thing that's tricky about it, though, is that there's lots of room for error. So it's important that we pay attention to our structure and slow ourselves down, show all of our work in our process. Now, please keep in mind that the standard form for a quadratic is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. And so when we're talking about our a, b, and c value, we are only talking about the variables in front of the x, not the x itself. So when we solve for the quadratic formula, the first thing that we want to do is, if we still have a y or an f of x in there, we want to set it equal to 0. Again, solutions mean that we're looking at when the graph crosses the x-axis. X-intercepts, solutions, zeros, roots, they're all the same thing and just different words. So I'm going to go ahead and take that function notation out, the f of x, which is the same thing as y, it's just a fancy way of writing it, and I'm going to replace that f of x with 0. So now I can go ahead and solve for when x is crossing the x, or when the graph is crossing the x-axis. I'm trying to find the x values for when y is 0. The first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my a, b, and c. So whenever I have a variable squared or a variable without the number in front of it, that always is going to be 1. So a is 1. It's important that our sign goes with the term, so b is -6 and c is going to be 4. Please keep in mind I did not write an x in any of those values. Now, our quadratic formula is x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that is all divided by 2a. So I'm going to break my quadratic formula down into a couple of different pieces here. And I am going to look at each piece individually so that we can simplify kind of outside of that quadratic formula, and then we'll put it all back together. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is -b. In this case, b is -6, so a -6 is the same thing as a +6. So b is +6. Sorry, -b is +6. And then I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the discriminant. And the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Please note, it is not the radical sign. The radical sign is not a part of our discriminant. So I'm going to put in parentheses -6 squared. That's one of the spots that students make the most errors. If you type in just -6 into your calculator and square it without the grouping symbols, it will give you a -36. But that is actually equal to +36. So please make sure that you pay attention there and take the extra second to type in the parentheses around your -6. And that's going to be times 4 times 1 times c, which is 4. So -6 squared is +36. 4 times 1 is 4 times 4 is 16. So 36 minus 16 is 20, and so my discriminant is going to be 20. And then last but not least, we're going to look at our denominator, which is 2a. My a value is 1, so I have 2 times 1, which is 2. So basically, I've broken down my quadratic formula, and kind of outside of the clutter that is provided by all of this craziness in the quadratic formula, I've simplified and calculated each of those 3 pieces of the quadratic formula. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug it back in. And I am going to have -b, which is a +6, plus or minus the square root of 20, all divided by 2a, which is 2. So we're going to need to look at how to simplify this, and the best thing to do is start with our radical sign. If our radical sign doesn't simplify, there isn't a lot more that we can do. So I'm going to make a factor tree for 20, and that will be 2 and 10. 10 is made up of 2 and 5. So therefore, I have a pair of 2s. One of them can come out to play while the other goes away. But that 5 is lonely. It's going to need to stay underneath my radical sign. So I'm going to have x is equal to 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5, all divided by 2. Now, if you notice, both the 2's and the 6 and 2 are divisible by 2. So I need to distribute that division to both the 6 and the 2 in the numerator. And really, that's going to look like 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5 over 2, right? That's how I can divide that that division and distribute it. Now, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so those are going to cancel out. And 6 divided by 2 is just 3, so I am going to have x is 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. And that is my most simplified answer. So again, when we're solving the quadratic formula, it's important that we keep structure to our work so that we don't skip any steps and we make the simplifying process as easy as possible. So the first thing that you should do is list your A, B, and C values. The next thing that you should do is right here, and we're just going to calculate our negative B, the discriminant, and 2a. Once you have those calculated, you're going to plug values in, and then we're going to, if possible, simplify.